Salutations, everyone. This is Razor here to give you guys my spoiler discussion of Superman Returns. A couple of you guys felt wanting more from my movie review, and for movies like this, I think it warrants this type of discussion. So maybe I'll tack this on to the movies that this is necessary for in the future, or if it's just like really bad and I need to talk about it, like in After Earth. So let's go with the changes. First of all, this movie was very sci-fi heavy, and there was a lot of Krypton, more Jor-El, and like the backstory of Krypton than really ever before. I think this was really good. It set up the fact that Superman is an alien, and that's something that kind of really isn't touched on very often because we kind of take it for granted. There's a lot of things that this movie did, I think, was done very well from an outside the comics perspective because I'm a big Superman fan. I love all kinds of other heroes, and I've seen pretty much all things Superman when it comes to movies and TV shows and comics. Uh, but there are some things that we kind of get saturated with uh, that the movie kind of went against in a good way. It was kind of like, whoa, yeah, okay. They need to touch on that. Superman is an alien, and the fact that Perry didn't run with Lois's story because if it was true, which he believes her that it is because it's fucking Pulitzer Prize winning Lois Lane, that people wouldn't be able to react properly to this kind of news that they aren't alone in the universe and this guy is capable of all these things and who is he, where is he, he's a ghost and all this shit. Completely reasonable things that you might maybe not think of if you're totally just used to the Superman storyline from movies and TVs and comic book stories. But the whole thing in Krypton was nice. I don't mind that there was no mention of Brainiac because I believe uh, the original story of Superman didn't include Brainiac until later. They said that Brainiac was behind it all, but not in the very beginning of the Superman uh, canon. It was I forget what it was, but the fact that the Kryptonians mined out the core and whatever is completely fine and reasonable. That the fact that they were this supreme race that's kind of manifest destinied all of the planets that they colonized was totally fine, and the fact that all of the Kryptonians are engineered to be a specific thing. Which we've seen in plenty of other movies. Ants comes to mind. Everyone's bred to be a worker or soldier from birth. So Zod is meant to be a warrior and protect Krypton, and scientists meant to do this and that. And Cal, you know, Superman is Krypton's first natural birth, so he isn't bred to be a specific thing. So he has freedom to do with what he wants, which is manifested in the wishes of both his Kryptonian parents and his Earth parents, and I think that was done very very well. And the fact that Kal-El, Jor-El, and Laura both knew that Krypton was going to hell and that they were doing all the wrong things, and Jor-El tried to explain to the council or the Senate, whatever it was, that you guys fucked up. Krypton, we had our chance. We need to get the hell out of here, and it's too late for us. But I have a ship, could save our race, and send my son out there to proliferate the Kryptonian ideals and history, keep that all alive and stuff with the Codex and all that stuff. So that was pretty cool. I didn't mind any sort of changes and that. I don't mind that it was sci-fi heavy. Um, the look and feel of Krypton was very very sci-fi, um, which I didn't really have that much of a problem with, and it didn't really blow me away either. The fact that the S is the L family crest, which I think was a nice little touch. Even though it was on absolutely everything in his house, it was like, does your trademark need to be on everything? But that was absolutely fine. Even the little USBs that they make have their family crest on it. So that was fine. Everything that they did with Krypton, totally cool with. Very, very well explained, and they grounded everything in a realistic sense, which I think was, a lot of Christopher Nolan influence, because they grounded Batman in the real world and made some changes and made it all work. And I think they did the same thing in this film. And when it came to Lois Lane's changes, I liked absolutely every single one of them, because uh, in the Christopher Reeve movies, and even in the Brandon Routh movie, Superman Returns, they just made Lois Lane to be this huge, gigantic cunt that was unlikable, and even unlikable in some of the animated series. But this needs to be a good character that people like, because this is Superman, the greatest hero ever, and this is love is his life. She needs to be a likable person, and they totally nailed it. I thought they picked a great actress in Amy Adams, who is both gorgeous and tough. And I think they did a great job writing her story. She's the best reporter there is out there, very ambitious, isn't afraid to butt heads with people, and is a good person. She decided not to run the story, which you would think, like, the prototypical Lois Lane would be like, ah, fuck it, this is all for journalism and shit, and run with the story that she found, this alien, and he could do all this shit. But grounded in realism, this isn't something that Lois runs with, because you need to leave this guy alone. He needs to have his privacy. You don't want to endanger people, and you don't want to freak everyone out, as Perry White says in the Daily Planet, which is why he can't run with this story. And so she drops it, and he realizes that, even though he thinks that her leads didn't dry up, that she's dropping it for the right reasons. So I really like that. That's something I really enjoyed. It was very realistic, grounded in a very realistic sense, and I enjoyed that very well. All the changes with Lois Lane, the fact that her relationship with Clark slash Superman has changed, and that she knows from the get go who he is. I very much enjoyed that, because they made it believable. They made Lois a likable character, and the situation grounded in realism much better. And then when he comes to work at the Daily Planet later, she obviously knows that it's him, it's Superman, but of course isn't going to say anything. So that's kind of kept between them, because the only people who really knows what he looks like are people in the army and Lois. For the most part, there's gonna be some fleeting footage on TV, but nothing too recognizable, I think. It also makes much more sense, because they take away that whole "ooh, the glasses makes him unrecognizable to the best reporter on the planet." That silly, dumb, unbelievable shit is no longer in the story, which was much appreciated as well. When it comes to the destruction of Metropolis and Smallville, I thought that was handled very well. It was very comic book scaled, which I enjoyed, which is something that has really, really been strayed away from in many comic book movies, especially Superman ones. When if you pick up any Superman comic, or if you watch any Superman, cartoons, destruction is on a different scale. It is absolutely massive, and it needs to be that way. And I thought that they handled that very well, and it racked up a body count higher than any superhero movie ever made. It puts the Avengers to shame. In my head, I was thinking, all right, well, they've killed some people. They've shown people die on screen, and then it started to rack up. I was like, well, okay, hundreds, okay, thousands of people have died now, and then it's like, well, okay, probably tens of thousands at this point, hundreds of thousands, and then it quickly escalates. When Metropolis just gets get bombarded, as buildings are getting just chewed through like wet tissue paper. It's like, okay, millions of people have died now, which is an obviously easy setup for the sequel, which is going to happen. It could be Lex Luthor, which, if they handle it right, could be good. But I thought they did a great job here in the first movie of staying away from Lex Luthor, staying away from Kryptonite, even though their Kryptonite was still in effect, in the fact that when Superman is aboard the ship, Zod's a Kryptonian ship, that he feels the atmospheric effects of Krypton, which is what the kryptonite effect is. But they stayed away from glowing green rocks, which was much appreciated, and they stayed away from Lex Luthor doing something maniacally stupid. In every single iteration of Lex Luthor on film, he's been doing something evil and retarded. Makes absolutely no sense. Like, ooh, you built a bunch of lands that floats made out of ugly rock. Yeah, that's perfect. Great idea, Lex. Wow, that's really something, Lex. And they stayed away from that, but they made some nods to LexCorp on tankers and buildings and stuff, and there was even a nod to Batman. The satellite in space said Wayne Enterprises on it, but there was a lot of other things that strayed away from DC Universe. When he tries to find other Kryptonians and other settlements, and he comes up empty, why doesn't he find Daxam? Why doesn't he find Daxam, where a Kryptonian race, the Daxamites, live and highly populated? That's where Sodom Yacht comes from, which you would know if you were a Green Lantern fan. So why doesn't he come across Daxam? Because those have Kryptonian descendants on there, but you could rationalize, oh well, he just couldn't find it, which is okay, fine, but okay, your technology is obviously failing you, and if you went through all the settlements, the Daxamites are descendants from Kryptonians, so obviously they came from one of these settlements. So why couldn't Zod find them? But I guess you could just say, well, he just didn't, which is okay, but still kind of makes me shrug my shoulders a little bit. Other differences that I didn't like, there's not too much with the story or the writing. Too okay, the writing a little bit, but the story I really didn't have a problem with as a whole. But there was just a lot of cinema sins that just really stuck with me. Some of the writing, some of the things that characters said, just things that happened for pure plot reasons, like when Lois gets brought aboard. Zod's ship. Why is she brought aboard the ship? So there's no reason for Zod to want her on the ship. It's purely for the plot device of her putting in the USB port and talking to Jor-El and figuring out how to stop Zod by crashing the two Phantom Core drives together, creating a singularity and shit. Which, by the way, okay, when she reveals that plan to the general, she's like, "I know how to stop him." Jor-El told me we just gotta. They run off phantom drives, and if we crash the ship that Clark came in with a Zod ship, and then the scientist dude says it'll create a singularity. It's like you don't know that's going to happen. You don't know the names of alien technologies nor how they work. So how do you know? Oh yes, two phantom core drives. If they touch, then it'll create a singularity. Stupid fucking bullshit. There's no way that he knows that that's what's going to happen. That was just lazy writing right there. And when when the ships start terraforming the Earth, um, and the scientist says they're terraforming, and they're like, "What's that?" Oh, it's like when you change the composition of the Earth. And then the military dude says, "Oh, so it can be like Krypton." Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong here, but nobody in the movie at this point has mentioned to this man what Krypton is. The only people who know what Krypton is Lois, Superman, and the Kryptonians. Maybe it was mentioned somewhere briefly, but there's still no way that he comes to that conclusion that somehow he knows the past, that oh, Krypton, they destroyed their core, so their home planet was ruined, so now they need a new home planet because they have the codex. There's no way he could have come to that conclusion that they were terraforming to create the planet to recreate Krypton. Absolutely ridiculous and lazy ass writing. And one of the things that I don't like is product placement, and inherently there's no problem with product placement because it helps pay for the movie. I get that, but you see IHOP, you're like, oh, okay, I know that place. That's cool. But then you see IHOP again, and then you see Sears, and at this point, you're looking for it. It's like, okay, well, there's Sears again. There's Sears again. It's like they show Sears like 7 times. At this point in the movie, you're just looking for this shit, and it takes you out of the movie. And another thing that was in the film that is in pretty much every film that's ever been made that always takes you out of the movie is the Wilhelm. They had the Wilhelm in the carrier. It's just this stupid little thing that I guess they feel like they need to put in every movie ever made, but it's so recognizable. It's the most used sound effect in movie history that it takes you out of the movie. It's like, oh, there's the Wilhelm. I'm watching a movie. Well, fuck. It's really lame because it's everywhere and it takes you out of the film. There's some other annoying things like the cliche of the adopted child. Clark finds out that he's not the birth child of Martha, and Jonathan Kent. And when they're in the car and the tornado hits, he's like, "You're not my dad. You're just some guy who found me in the field." There is, first of all, super cliche. Does every kid who doesn't have their birth parents in the story have to say that in a moment of anger, and then the dad or mom dies, and then he has to be filled with that regret? It's like, oh my gosh, that's the last thing I said to them. Super cliche. Also, Clark would have never said that. That is so not Superman. That's not something his character would have ever said. It doesn't make sense. It's completely inconsistent with his character development, and it was just used as that stupid cliche. Oh, you're not my real dad, and then you die shortly afterwards, and now I feel bad. Super cliche. That was just something that had me pulling my hair out. I was like, he would not say this, and this is completely redundant. So that part was just really annoying to me. And just the other the things that I can't think of everything off the top of my head, but just stuff that they did purely for plot reasons was really annoying. And typical military stuff, like the dude who brings out his knife, who's gonna fight what's her face. Is he the captain of everything? He's like the most versatile military captain ever. He flies the fucking helicopter and the fucking AC-130. He's like in charge of everything. This dude is everywhere. The military would crumble if this dude dies because he's in charge of everything. Also, why is Lois on this freaking carrier? Why can't she just tell them how to activate tell them put the USB in the USB drive on the Kryptonian ship and everything's cool? Why does she have to be on the ship? And just she's in way too many scenes than she needs to be. Also, at the end, when Superman kills Zod, which I'll get into in a minute, obviously, how does she end up at the subway station where they are? How does she know that they're there? How does she magically appear in that situation? Really weird. Okay, so let's get to that. Superman kills. He goes all Wonder Woman on everybody and snaps Zod's neck, which is I saw I saw it. I was like, when the family was in the corner and the heat vision was going that way, I was like, I stood up. I was like, are they going? Yeah, they're going to. And then it happened. Superman had to make the choice. He made the right choice. Don't get me wrong. He made the right choice. It was in a, if it, story wise, it made a clear cut uh, differentiation between what can happen, what was going to happen. The laser beams coming at the family. It's either they die or he dies, or Superman kills Zod, and otherwise he's going to kill the family, and then much more. So Superman does make the right choice, as Wonder Woman did with Maxwell Lord, snapping his neck, because he wasn't given another choice. That was what was going to happen. More people were going to die unless Zod died. So he made the right choice, but Superman does not kill. Everybody knows this. Superman doesn't kill. That's him and Batman. That's the cardinal rule that they share, and that's one of the reasons why they're such good friends. That's the one line that they can't cross. For Superman especially, Batman could kill if he wanted to, and he'd be the most powerful superhero out there, because no one could be able to stop him. But Superman can't kill. It's just too important that for him to not kill, because he is the most powerful superhero in existence. In any universe, in any way, Superman is the most powerful. So for him to cross that line sets a precedent. If he is remains faithful to this cardinal rule of not killing people, it says something, because he's the most powerful, he's the most capable of killing, and he doesn't. That's what's so important and crucial to Superman being Superman, is that he does not kill. And it was very surprising to see that they went this way, um, because Superman doesn't kill. Everybody knows that. And the I can only think of two times in the comic book where he actually does kill. One is when he kills Doomsday and Doomsday kills him. They kill each other. Second, of I think the first time it happened is when Superman goes into a pocket universe and he kills Zod of all people. He kills Zod because Zod had killed billions of people, and he was like, "This needs to end." And he kills Zod with green kryptonite, and it's an alternate universe, so that that kryptonite doesn't really affect him or something. I forget. And then he goes back to the real universe and has to, or his universe, and has to deal with the fact of what he did. And it was those are the only two times that I can think that Superman killed. One was Doomsday and one was Zod. And in this movie, he does kill Zod. So that was very interesting that they took that route, and it was very powerful in his reaction after he killed him. He's screaming. He's so disappointed that that's what it came to. It doesn't feel like he was angry or relieved. That scream was great emoting from Superman's perspective that he was driven to do this, that he wasn't given another choice, and he is upset that that's what it came to. Also, the choice of killing Zod was very also good for the story in that he says that the Kryptonians had their chance, which is what Jor-El tried to instill in the council, that we had our chance and we fucked it up. And also in killing Zod, they're the last Kryptonians, so he's choosing Earth over Krypton, which goes back to his human upbringing. So that was very symbolic gesture in killing Zod, choosing Earth over Krypton, choosing his nurture over his nature, and killing Zod, saving Earth and the Earthlings. Humans, I guess. Earthlings sounds like a weird thing to call people. But it was a good parallel decision to how Clark really felt about making that choice. Also, might have, not with the killing, but it might have grabbed something from Superman Earth One storyline in the fact, which is one of the good things about the story that a lot of people don't really like understand. The way that he was trying to discover himself, he went through all these different jobs and occupations, trying to find his purpose, and then ends up revealing Superman to the world when Zod demands it, which was very reminiscent of Earth One's storyline, where he reveals himself after it was either that or have people die, which I thought was very cool, grounded in realism once again. And a lot of people have a problem with the seriousness of Henry Cavill's performance, which is bullshit. You're an idiot if you think, oh, he was too serious, he needed to lighten up and be more humorous. It's like, you're an idiot. That's not what Superman is about. I thought Henry Cavill's performance was absolutely perfect. He had the look, he carried himself like Superman, just the way that he would talk to people. When he knew that he had an upper hand on pretty much anybody, and until it came to Zod, which was it was very evident. He carried himself like Superman. He talked like Superman would talk, and he kept himself serious at times, but he was always in control of himself. But also at the same time, he's developing himself as Superman. At the beginning and at the middle of the movie, he isn't Superman. He hasn't made that transcendent change to be the guy that we know in the comics and in the movies and their cartoons and stuff, where he's been Superman for a while. He hasn't been Superman for a while. He just reveals himself. He's dealing with the whole Kryptonian background and all the serious shit that's going down. So the fact that he's not laughing it up and joking it like he's Deadpool or something does not bother me in the least, because that's not Superman. If you believe otherwise, you don't know Superman. So that's the main problem I had with the critics. Was like, oh, he's too serious. He needs to lighten up and be all happy-go-lucky. It's like, fuck you. You don't know Superman if that's what you think should be the case. So I had no problem with that. I thought it was the best Superman that we've ever had. A lot of people like say, don't worry, Christopher Reeve's still the best Superman. No, Christopher Reeve was the best Clark Kent, the alter ego of Superman. The best Superman is Henry Cavill, hands down. That is the best, most truest fashion of Superman that we have ever seen on the silver screen, and that is what I very, very much enjoyed about this film. The fact that they made him kill was very questionable, but at the same time, I it wasn't the hardest pill for me to swallow because he made the right choice, but at the same time, it is Superman's thing that he does not kill. Now, this might lead up to the fact that he will never kill again. The fact that he hated that he had to do that, and that's a line he'll never cross again. That might be the choices. That might be the plan that they have out for him for to make the next one or two movies or Justice League or whatever that ends up happening. Speculations aside, that might be something that he has to struggle with in the future because he knows he can't kill because he already crossed that line and he can't cross it again. So that might be what they're setting up for, which is reasonable. Um, so I didn't have too much of a problem with him killing, but at the same time, it's very not true to his character. The cinematic sins of plot devices and characters being in way too many scenes than they should, and a lot of formulaic cliches that they threw out there were very disturbing to me as a moviegoer. So that's just something after watching so many movies and seeing the same kind of shit happen over and over again. Seeing it in this movie was like shaking my head. It's like, you're better than this. You're better than this, guys. You don't have to do all this crap. It kind of bogged down what was a much better movie than some people think that it was. But it wasn't perfect. It definitely wasn't perfect. But I'm glad that it was done because the second movie can now be amazing. It can be the Dark Knight to the Batman Returns that it seems like Man of Steel is. So hopefully, what we have next to come is much, much better. But I thought it was a good start, but not great. The best Superman movie ever made so far, hands down, hands down. But there were still some things that they could have changed. So hope you guys enjoyed. Comments always appreciated. I'll be sure to answer any questions or problems with what you had that I said, and I'll see you guys next time.